Has worst just turned to worst? Welcome back to The Curious Listener. This morning's news that Netflix has bought Warner Bros. Discovery's studio and streaming business for $83 billion puts even more alarming context around an already alarming situation for the movie theater business. In my last couple of videos here at The Curious Listener, we've been discussing the bleak failure of film after film over the past several months, when, as Brooks Barnes reported for the New York Times just a couple weeks ago, quote, not one of the 25 dramas and comedies that movie theater companies released in North American theaters over the past 3 months has become a hit. This includes the music biopic Springsteen Deliver Me From Nowhere, which cost roughly $55 million to make, and, quote, yet stalled at the domestic box office with about 21 million in ticket sales. And as I mentioned on my last video, that's despite that film being anchored to an enormous name in Bruce Springsteen. And as you know from my recent videos here, that hardly tells the whole story of the struggles apparent for the movie theater business at this moment. Remember the Julia Roberts film that came out called After the Hunt that cost $70 million to make and, as Barnes reports, quote, collected $3.3 million in the United States and Canada after playing for a month. Many A-list stars have suffered similar fates in recent months. We're talking about the likes of a Margot Robbie, Russell Crowe, Keanu Reeves, Jennifer Lawrence, Dwayne Johnson, Robert Pattinson, Channing Tatum, and others, all of whom, as Barnes puts it in the New York Times, quote, failed to fill seats to varying degrees over the past 3 months. Now, to be clear, as you probably know if you're watching this video, franchises are still doing fine. I mean, look at what this sequel to the first installment in the Wicked franchise just did. It shattering records, right? I pulled some numbers up this morning, raking in nearly $230 million globally, which has set records for a musical adaptation. But when it comes to those dramas and comedies that Barnes reported on in the New York Times, theaters are catering to crickets. One thing we have not discussed here is why this is happening. And this is where this morning's news, to me, for what it's worth, of Netflix's $83 billion acquisition of Warner Bros. Discovery's studio and streaming business becomes particularly troubling. This further consolidation of content creation in the studio and streaming space may be as troubling as anything that has yet to develop or come out in reporting from a movie theater business perspective. What decimated these genres, Barnes asks? Well, listen to this. During the pandemic, Hollywood largely ended the long-held practice of giving theaters an exclusive window of about 90 days to show new movies. Remember those days when it would take forever for a film maybe you missed in theaters and were hoping to see on streaming when it came out to actually come out on streaming? Those days are long behind us. Listen to this. Instead, movies started to become available for digital rental or purchase after as little as 17 days. This diminished incentive to see movies in theaters, especially dramas and comedies, which play just fine on living room TVs. Barnes continues, frustrated theater owners. Imagine being one of them this morning, today, in this moment, after this news came out. Frustrated theater owners have lately been trying to persuade studios to backtrack, perhaps changing the 17-day policy to something closer to 45 days. How about a middle ground, they're saying, right? The effort has gone nowhere, although talks are continuing. Boy, I'd love to be a fly on the wall of those talks right now after the Netflix news this morning. And now, I just got done watching CNBC's Andrew Ross Sorkin go on MS Now and say on the air that in light of this news, Hollywood is uncertain which direction Netflix plans to take with this studio and streaming business it has bought for $83 billion from Warner Bros. Discovery. Does this mean potentially, and this is Sorkin, CNBC best-selling author, CNBC longtime analyst on there, the guy knows business reporting, and this is what his sources are telling him, and this is what he's reporting on the air. Does this mean Netflix is now going to steer most or all content, some of which now, perhaps a good deal of which now will come out from under the Warner Bros. Discovery umbrella? Will it all be relegated to a streaming platform? Will any of it make it into movie theaters? perhaps accelerating what has been reported as a precipitous decline in movie theater attendance just over the past few months. I mean, there are so many ways in which this news couldn't have come at a worse time, from this perspective at least. The New York Times reported today about that quote, the pitch from Netflix to Warner Bros. Discovery was notable in part because it included a pledge to continue theatrical releases for movies from Warner Bros. Discovery. The Times goes on to say, that is a significant development for Netflix, which pioneered at-home viewing and has so far avoided going all in at the box office. Listen, I believe I comfortably can say that I'm speaking on behalf of Hollywood when I express that I'll believe that when I see it. Okay? They can pitch whatever they want, but now that they own the product, they can also do whatever they want. Does Netflix necessarily have any real-world bottom-line incentive to say, "Oh yes, we're gonna cater to movie theaters now," which they've never done before? And consider that Hollywood had its chance to find a middle ground with the likes of a Netflix. We've been talking about that here at the Curious Listener for a long time as well. Remember when I was talking with you at great length about the cancellation of the Prince documentary put on by a director named Ezra Edelman. The Prince estate came down hard on Netflix and pressured Netflix to cancel this 9-hour-long 6-part series about the life of Prince, a world-changing genius of an artist, right? Ezra Edelman, of course, gave an artist of that impact and magnitude precisely the kind of justice that he deserved, not trying to cram that life into 2 hours in a movie theater, but spreading it out across 9 hours on a streaming platform as premier as Netflix. Well, that's the same director behind the O.J. Made in America film, which drove a wedge between the Hollywood and the streaming platforms. Listen to this. I poked around before making this video in preparation for it, and I found that, in fact, this is still the case. Quote, multi-part series from streaming platforms or any platform are still banned from the Best Documentary Feature Oscar at the Academy Awards. A rule put in place after OG in America won, making them ineligible, though individual documentary features released by streamers can still qualify with, quote, proper theatrical runs, a point of ongoing debate. Because what constitutes a feature? How do we define a proper theatrical run? That's where the ongoing debate arises. Why would Hollywood have been so short-sighted as to have, after this brilliant film won both an Emmy and an Oscar, a rare instance in which such a thing is the case, blurring the boundaries between primetime television and the feature film movie-going experience? Why, after the magnificent success of that triumph by Ezra Edelman, whose Prince documentary was later canceled by Netflix at the behest of the Prince estate, why would the Academy's response to that be, we're going to ban films like that from eligibility for Best Documentary Feature Oscars going forward? How do you think that landed in streaming world, especially on the desks of executives at Netflix? Do you think that warmed them up to Hollywood's movie theater going business model? Probably not. And you know, an attitude among consumers that favors streaming in lieu of going to the movies is in the air and has been for some time. We all know this, right? Just listen to this comment someone posted here on a short that I put up just a few days ago about how the Springsteen biopic's alleged flop underscores this crisis for the movie theater business. This commenter said as follows, quote, it's all economics. The price of a ticket or buy food. Everything costs more. The price of streaming keeps going up, so why not just wait until it comes out on streaming? Why not just wait until it comes out on streaming? How many people have you heard echo those sentiments in recent months and even years? Right? Yeah, I'll wait for it to come out on Prime or Netflix or HBO Max or whatever. Right? I myself, I did this little experiment at work the other day when you're about to start a Teams meeting at your job and there's a little chatter among people that might or might not be work related. I figured to inject a little question into that pre-Teams meeting chatter, and I asked someone on the call who I know is a close relative of one of the co-founders of the band Styx, S-T-Y-X, great classic rock, legendary classic rock act, right? Well, he's related to one of its co-founders, and he therefore knows his music inside and out. Trust me, I've known the guy for a long time. He's an encyclopedia of music history, okay? And I said, did you see the Springsteen Deliver Me From Nowhere film? No, he said, he had not. And then he tossed the question off to someone else on the call whose son is a guitar player and who himself lives in the heartland in Ohio The Heartland being the epicenter of the so-called, Heartland rock genre that guys like Bruce Springsteen or John Mellencamp are said to have pioneered, right? So this guy too is a music fan, intimately connected to music through his son, lives in the very area of the country where Bruce Springsteen's music is supposed to resonate with particular effect, right? No, he said, and then he went on and said, some of the reviews looked a little funky, so I figured I'd just wait for it to come out on streaming platforms. And it's such a damn shame that this is happening at a time of renaissance in the music biopic space, right? As I said in my last video, we have seen at least a dozen music biopics come out since 2019, a dozen over the past 6 years. There have been at least 1 or 2 years in which 3 music biopics have come out spotlighting major artists. I mean, we're talking about Bob Dylan, Elton John, Bob Marley, Amy Winehouse, Elvis, right? Bruce Springsteen, of course, with Deliver Me From Nowhere. And that this renaissance in the music biopic space is occurring at the same time at which the movie theater business is apparently dying, meaning that fewer and fewer people are going to see these films. And they may say they're going to queue them up on streaming, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to do that. In the time that elapses between a film's appearance in a movie theater and the time at which it becomes available on streaming, who knows how much interest in those films has been sustained to the point that they're going to actually put some action behind this promise that they're going to go see it on streaming. That's an iffy proposition at best. So today's news that Netflix is forking over $83 million to take ownership of a studio and streaming business as colossal as Warner Bros. Discovery would only seem to worsen these woes for the movie theater business, it seems to me. Their pitch apparently gestured in some pleasant directions about putting stuff in movie theaters. We'll see. And I truly hate to say this as a longtime lover of the movie-going experience, as someone who loves talking about music biopics here on a channel devoted to music, but it feels to me, based on all the reporting that I've shared with you on this channel in my recent videos, mostly around the Springsteen biopic Deliver Me From Nowhere, that unless something truly huge happens to shake up things in this space, the movie theater, it feels to me, is going the way of the rotary phone, the 8-track, and the drive-in. And on that depressing note, I guess, hit subscribe and come back next time for more music talk. Listen, however dark things get for us music and movie lovers here in the streaming era, I will be here to keep the conversation going, and I hope to see you back here at The Curious Listener again next time for more.